Hello and welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Dreyer and this is
John C. Myers.
And we are usually a horror franchise podcast discussing each film and horror franchises, but today we are bringing you a bonus episode with our reoccurring friend, Michael Holloway. Welcome back, Michael.
Thank you. Great to be back.
Yeah. So around this time, usually for the past 3 or 4 years, we've done a bonus episode called the Fright Boys Spectacular because I think 2021, we started keeping track of all of our Halloween watches. And
that's correct. I've got it right in front of my face. 2021
fantastic.
onward.
Yeah. So a COVID lockdown activity during Halloween. And so we needed an excuse to watch more horror movies during October. So we have this intricate spreadsheet system. So why not talk about them? Right.
And you should mention we write what we watched, where we watched it, when we watched it, and then we give it a star value out of 5 stars, which I may reference tonight if that's kosher. Because
my secrets.
Yeah. And all of which makes us very cool dudes.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Keeping multiple spreadsheets for our Halloween watches. So
these archives are important, man.
Yeah. Society needs this.
So was there any strategy to what y'all picked? I mean, we just throw things up on a spreadsheet. I know, John, sometimes you like to do first time watches and focus on that. But was there any general strategy for either one of you?
Definitely focused on things I hadn't seen this year. I think I only had 2, maybe 3 rewatches out of 25. Mm-hmm. So I did very good on that. Mm-hmm. No, it's all in terms of what I choose. It's just vibe. It's just what am I feeling that night? Because I was trying to watch something every night. I didn't quite nail it, but I got close. But it's just vibe. Do I want something kind of goofy? Do I want something serious that might make me feel bad? Yeah. Something in between, etc.
A lot of it was just new watches for me, just a good chance to see stuff I hadn't seen before. But I was toying around a little bit with, there's a podcast, The Important Cinema Club, which I enjoy very much. And one of the hosts of that, Justin DeClue, he made a list. He did a super scary movie challenge and just a list of, not necessarily a list of movies, but stuff like a horror film from Kazakhstan, a Texas Chainsaw Massacre ripoff, a 3D horror film you watch with red and blue glasses, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I used that as kind of a guide where I'm like, oh, some of that stuff could be kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. I got through some of it. I was kind of in the mood for a lot more schlocky stuff this year, but
Sleepaway Camp, you must watch in the nude.
Right. Yes.
Yes. No rules for John C. Myers when it comes to.
No, I play by my own rules.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't invite me to game night.
Yeah. I was traveling a lot for work for the first 2 weeks of this month, so I did not get to as many as I kind of hoped I would. However, I didn't. I tried to watch a couple of new things, as in new this year, that sometimes I don't do as good of a job of keeping up on. But otherwise, I was just kind of all over the place, really.
This got me thinking now. What horror movies should be watched in the nude? And I think I got to go with Society.
Society's good.
I can't think of a better one.
I mean, there's a lot of sexy horror out there, but in Society, you'd probably feel silly for some of it being in the nude.
Yeah.
50 minutes, and then you get to
just watching the teen drama unfold.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it kind of depends if the theater allows it or not.
My only memory of that movie before the incredible climax, obviously, is just teenagers that look 30 years old, because they are, standing on sidewalks talking to each other about stuff their parents said or stuff other people at school said. Mm-hmm. And you watch approximately 24 scenes of these 30-year-old teenagers talking to each other on the sidewalk. And then there's the shunt. Yeah.
Well, it's we'll get to it with Friday Night Part 2, but we talked a little bit in Friday Night where it's these teens that are all in their late 20s.
Right. And most of those sidewalks, I feel like we're on a beachfront or a kind of there's water in the background of a lot of those. I feel like it's like a
director's house
front community. Yeah.
Producer's house, actually, more likely.
Right.
Low budget horror and pornography. You just got to use the director's house.
Right. So, with that in mind, just sort of going on the vibes, what was something you watched this month, Michael, that you were kind of excited about? And I guess one other thing is as always, it's good to kind of err on what did you like? But if there was something that really rubbed you raw for a specific reason, get into that. But this is also meant to be kind of a suggestions, be excited to watch this.
I watched the 1988 Child's Play for the first time ever. I had never seen this movie. It's one of those movies you actually convince yourself that you've seen.
Yeah.
even though you haven't, right? You just think, but obviously I've seen it. I'm a horror movie watcher. That's something horror movie watchers watch. I'd literally never seen it. And I wasn't sure until I started it. I'm like, well, if I have seen it, but it was like 30 years ago, because I'm old, I'll remember a couple scenes and I'll be like, oh, right. This is what happens in Child's Play, Chucky, etc. But it started up and immediately I'm like, whoa, this is urban, like Chicago setting and in like a sort of, stone apartment building, and has these like super urban vibes and all these like city shots of Chicago and like I'm not from Chicago. I don't know what to call these things, but the L line or whatever. And I was not expecting the atmosphere and vibe that this, Chucky doll movie had. And it really surprised me in a really nice way. And then it helped too that like the casting in the first one is pretty good. Yeah. And it's Sarandon, right? It's Chris Sarandon. We were just
Chris Sarandon, because it's Tom Holland directing it again.
Chris Sarandon as the cop. The mom of Andy is the lady from Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home.
Right? Yep, the whale lady.
Yeah, it has some fun casting and they're all really good. And the movie's just so clever and has so much clever photography to handle all of the Chucky shots that I was very impressed and I was really pleased. And then I chased it down with Child's Play 2 and I shouldn't have. That was a bummer. But
wait,
talk about Child's Play.
You can't come on this show and talk about how you shouldn't watch the sequel.
I know. I mean, you know what? I'll probably put Child's Play 3 on tonight after this podcast, just to keep this going.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's one that I know I've seen. I think I watched the first one or maybe even 1 and 3 like a few years ago. But it's not one that I'm super familiar with. Like Chucky is not like my franchise, I guess.
I was also pleased that you actually get to see Brad Dourif for a little bit in the beginning of the movie. I was fully aware that he was the voice of Chucky, but I didn't realize you were actually getting like a couple scenes with him and then the transformation and how that all happened. Brad Dourif is one of my just all-time favorite actors, mostly because of Deadwood, but also, things like Dune and other stuff.
His daughter is in the TV series and plays his character in drag in flashbacks.
That's incredible.
Great. Yeah. That, especially with how well regarded the TV show is, like I am kind of excited to dive into all the Chuckies. I think there's 7 of them maybe. And then like a couple seasons. I mean, you also brought up the good point in one of our chat chains, but like the fact that the poster doesn't tell you that it's a killer doll movie at all. Like I hadn't thought about that.
Look it up, folks. The original Child's Play poster. This one surprised me because most of these 80s posters are like burnt on the back of your eyes, right? Like you just know them all so well from VHS or Betamax box at the video store from the 80s and 90s. But this one I really didn't recognize. It's like the apartment building, like shot from the ground up, and then just like Chucky's weird eyes in the sky. But it could just be anybody. It could be like there's no concept that it's Chucky, that it's even a toy, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting to me to think that were they trying to sell Child's Play specifically not wanting people to necessarily know it was a movie about a doll or a toy?
Well, cool. This many decades in of being a horror fan, there's not many big ones left of two.
It's hard to do. Yeah, so it was a great surprise. I'm so glad that I decided to do it. And I'm kind of shocked that I hadn't done it already, but it happens sometimes. You find things when you're meant to find them. So
what about you, John?
A good one that I stumbled upon, or I've been meaning to watch and finally got around to it, was Red Rooms, which is arguably more of a thriller than a psychological thriller than a horror movie, but it deals with some pretty horrifying stuff.
It's a horror movie just because of the
subject matter is pretty brutal, and it isn't what you think it is. Like it's going one way and then starts to go another way. And it is really just a character study. It's one of those where the lead actress has to do a lot, has to carry the whole movie, and she really does. Mm-hmm. It's also very expertly made. It's tough to talk about because I don't want to give anything away, because I feel like this is definitely one that like you have to experience, you have to let it unfold in front of you.
So if you hadn't brought it up, I definitely would have. And so maybe we can do like a little spoiler alert section, because there's definitely some things in there I'd like to talk about horror movie wise.
Yeah, we can talk about it. Just understand that right now there's going to be spoilers, so you may want to skip ahead if you can.
Yeah, if you haven't heard anything about it and you think, oh, maybe I should watch that, it's on Shudder, then skip this part. I'm curious about both of your thoughts on this. Did either of you make the connection between this movie, Red Rooms, and it being entirely shot in Montreal did you think at all about Videodrome over in Toronto?
I didn't, but now that you mention it, no, I didn't. That connection, I never considered it.
That's one of the things that I kept coming back. I thought about this movie on its own terms a lot, but I also thought about it a lot as feeling like this is a 2025 version of Videodrome. And that's going to sell it the wrong way to some people listening, because it really feels nothing like Videodrome. It's a completely different kind of movie, but thematically and conceptually, I think it's very much a case of Canadian filmmaker exploring ideas about violence and how we receive it, and what happens to us when we receive it, and why are some people compelled to engage with it. And it's not like a movie that has answers, obviously. It's not trying to, but Videodrome doesn't really have any answers either.
Yes, it does. Long live the new flesh.
Yeah, the answer is stomach gun. But no, yeah, that makes sense. And I've always thought, like, I even remembered the last time you and I saw Videodrome at the Hollywood here in town. We were thinking of, like, how could you do a remake of this? Not necessarily saying we want it, but just it is clear that you go
Videodrome
into that
82. Obviously, it's about TV. And pirate broadcasts. But think about it, even the pirate element, right? Videodrome is very much about these pirate broadcasts that are being put onto people's, radios and TVs and whatnot, and make people receive them. And this is what is a Red Room? Well, it's a dark web video stream, right? And what are they showing? They're showing essentially exactly the same thing.
Well, yeah,
right?
I mean,
it's actually worse in Red Rooms somehow, but. Yeah, because it's children.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I was like, and it makes you feel uncomfortable in your complicity in it, because, like, there's a part where there's an online auction, and you're like kind of like getting stressed out, like, oh, I hope they win it, but, like, it's for something awful. Yeah. Why are you
right?
So you kind of get caught up in the moment, which I enjoy that toying with the audience that way.
And it does a really good job of walking that line, like. Really commendable job of never becoming just schlock garbage,
or just like shocking
stuff.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and instead it's like, what if there's something truly awful going on in the world, and everyone knows about it, at least in this, because it's in a courthouse, right? Everyone knows about it, but what if we make the movie about someone right on the outside of it looking in?
Yeah.
And they're not directly connected in any way, but they have some access to things related to it. They have a lot of, interest in it, clearly. And then you make it about that person who's on the periphery of the awful, awful thing. Yeah. And the whole movie's about that angle of looking at it. And then we kind of get icked out by realize, like, oh, we're kind of indirectly
that's what we're
looking at this too, right?
Yeah. And how she gets drawn into it.
Right.
To get into the very end necessarily, but just like how, I mean, maybe some people just don't want to be bystanders watching, and how you can get, like, sucked into that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's one scene I won't even mention, but I'll just call it for you guys the birthday present scene. And that scene had this truly mesmerizing and haunting quality to it. It reminds me of it's not as good as, but similar effect as when you're watching A Field in England. And there's the sequence in A Field in England when the guy comes out of the tent.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the most, it just transfixes you, and it's horrifying, but also very ambiguous, but ambiguously horrifying.
Yeah. There's a British movie called Censor, which is about a censor during the big video nasty era. And she's, like, slowly losing her mind or whatever. And it's kind of what you would expect from that kind of movie. It's decent. But there's a part when stuff really starts going down that they do that same drop from Blank Mass, that same audio track, Chernobyl, I think it's called. And that just jettisoned me from the movie, because I'm like, that's A Field in England. I'm sorry, I can't roll with that.
You can't reuse that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, Red Room made me feel awful for a couple of days. And I'm saying that in a good way. That movie will get kind of under your skin, perhaps.
Yes. Not necessarily like a fun horror watch, like some of these other things, but definitely one of my favorites. That and I don't want to get into it too much, but like that and 28 Years Later were both movies that I ended up really liking and were so much more than I expected them to be.
Jim, have you seen 28 Years
I
Later?
have not. I like the first one fine, and like as I think with both of you, like it's hard to get me interested in zombie movies these days. And
I really like zombie movies still.
I would say that don't let that stop you.
Yeah, I would like to see it.
It's not a zombie movie in the way that you probably think.
Right.
I saw it in the theater.
You specifically.
Yeah, yes.
You idiot. Yeah. No.
I saw it in the theater. I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I wish I'd seen it in the theater. I'm a chump. I'm a buster.
What a chump.
And a sucker MC.
Yeah, I was a little annoyed that I had no sense going in that it was going to be like part 1 of 2.
That's a little bit of a bummer.
And it kind of just stops and you're like, wait a minute, this movie doesn't feel over. And then you're like, oh, because it's not
right.
over.
Should I rewatch the second one before?
I've never seen the second one.
Okay, so
yeah,
same world, different stories.
Don't worry about it.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. Yeah, some really cool Danny Boyle photography, or I guess he has a cinematographer, but he has a very stylized touch, and it definitely goes in directions that you wouldn't know it was going when it starts. And one thing it did is it establishes familial relationships that are kind of like deliberately frustrating and then forces you to just deal with them. And I thought I might hate the movie when it kind of first gets rolling, because I was like, oh, don't be one of these movies that it's like kids have shitty problems with their shitty parents and we just have to deal with it as they deal with it the whole way. Somehow it didn't fall into that trap, even though it very easily could have, because that is a huge part of the story. But I think it got out of there, and it's still very much about family, but it handled it in a better way than I feared at first. What about
you, James?
I finally, after a couple of years of having it on my list, I finally watched the first two. Well, maybe it's the first and the third in the Quatermass Experiment series of movies, and these are the Quatermass Experiment was That's
funny. I assumed you spelled it wrong on the Google Doc. I thought it was Quatermass and you just wrote it wrong, but it's actually Quatermass.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. That's how they say it. And that's not stopping me. Yep. I don't care. So it's Quatermass.
It's the Quatermass series.
I'm an American, damn it. Right. It's Quatermass.
Yes. Quatermass Experiment is the first Hammer horror film. And it's not much like the other Hammer horror films. It's not like gothic vampires and that kind of stuff. This is more of a 3 astronauts go up in a rocket and they bring something back with them. It's one of those kind of like
not like Toby Hooper movie, like
Life Force.
Life
Force was definitely inspired by this. It's one of those movies where like John Carpenter loves it, and the Quatermass series. Particularly Halloween 3 is very inspired by Quatermass and Stone Tape.
That makes total sense.
Stuff like that. But Quatermass in the Pit is the third one in the series, and it's like 1967. And I feel like that's the one where they kind of got everything right, even though it's a little goofy. But man, there's some great ideas in it, and it's one of those movies where they'll tie in everything from the occult to aliens to early Christianity to just Lovecraft dread. I don't know. Like I thought it's a great blender of all kinds of different movies.
When the horror kind of escapes containment and goes, you didn't stop it in time. So now it's dealing with the aftermath of that. And it's also one of those movies, and not every horror movie can do this, but I do like when a horror movie does it. When there's no like denouement, it's just, ooh, glad that's over, the end. Like, and that, right. and in fact, the credits kind of play over them being like, holy crap, what a day.
Yeah.
But I always kind of like that, because it's, so often there's like, what else is there to say? At the end of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's like, what do you want after this?
Right. Certainly. There's a whole bunch of these movies in the series, and I don't know how great or poor some of them are, but those seem to be the 2 like seminal ones that I wanted to check out. And so in this same like kind of umbrella, it made me finally watch the Stone Tape, which I just mentioned. I think you've seen that before, John.
I love the Stone Tape.
Stone Tape is fantastic, and that's even more Halloween 3. It's one of those kind of Prince of Darkness style, like we're going to put scientists into a haunted place and try to understand a haunting from a scientific point of view. And it was one of the first ones of like, maybe the stones themselves are haunted and carry memories. I think that's the whole idea.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah. But that one's a lot of fun as well.
What year is that one?
Stone Tape is 72, I think.
It has a very because it was done by I think basically the BBC. It has a very old Doctor Who episode feel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that as someone who hates Doctor Who. I think I mean that in a positive way.
Right. Yeah, and the first Quatermass movie is 1957, and so it very much is if it was 2 levels poorer, it'd be an MST episode,
right?
1950s mad scientist type of deal. But no, I really liked them. It was fun to kind of close the loop on that one. I had been wanting to watch those for quite a while.
I'd like to take this time to shout out friend of the show, Becky Dark's podcast, Hammer Time, a Hammer horror podcast.
Mm-hmm. How many people download her podcast and are disappointed it's not about MC Hammer?
I think just one. I think just MC Hammer.
Yeah. Finally, the reappraisal is me.
Please, Hammer, don't hurt him if you are mad.
Right. Okay, so Michael, what was one that you were less hot on? Maybe not fully disappointed, but maybe you had hopes for, and it didn't quite pan out.
I always try to thread this needle carefully because it's not fun to listen to someone just hate on something. I know it's boring and tiring.
Yeah, we get it. You don't like the show. It's fine.
Well, how could I not like it? I don't listen to it.
Perfect. We're bringing Michael on for the after show that discusses the show, but we're wrapping it into the show,
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple I could choose here. I'm going to go with the big one though. I really didn't like Sinners. I waited a long time to see it. I watched it this October. And I obviously, a lot of this, maybe it's just a case of something getting overhyped. And I don't know, though. I think there's something about Ryan Coogler. And I'll say, it's a generic ass, Portland, Oregon white dude. Maybe I'm just not the audience for the movie, and that's totally cool. But the first half of the movie, which is way more about the culture of the individuals involved, I thought was fantastic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The first half of Sinners is a really good, really interesting character study and, vibe and atmospheric sort of setting, but it's just about these guys putting together a music club. And, it's sort of almost like an Ocean's 11 sort of, let's find each member that we need to recruit to get our music club together. And I was very into it. And I was like, damn, okay, I get it. This, it zips along, but it feels very cinematic. Everything's kind of on this big scale. Mm-hmm. When it became a vampire movie, it lost me completely because it was a bad vampire movie. I was just flat out say Sinners was a shitty vampire movie and poorly directed too. The action scenes made no sense. Mm-hmm. There was major issues of body armor on characters where you got that scene when they finally can get into the club. Right. And from the outside, they're showing hundreds of people waiting outside and they all charge in at once. But yet every scene of combat inside the club, each of the important characters has tons of room around them and will get one person attacking them at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And have tons of time for dialogue and doing other things. And it's there were hundreds of dudes outside. Yeah. And they're all charging into this room right now. This makes no sense. And it really took me out of it. It really seemed incompetently filmed as an action scene. But also I thought the vampires were horribly underdeveloped. I mean, sure, there was some cool music stuff. Again, anything it did about music was really, really well done. When the Irish vampire folk song thing was going on, I thought that was great. Yeah. But when the bad guy vampires just being a bad guy vampire, it was so tedious and so boring because they had nothing interesting to do with vampires. They were let's just take that one thing about you have to get permission to enter and just riff on it for 30 minutes straight. Mm-hmm. And that drove me crazy. And then at the end, again, I'm not the audience for some of the other parts of the movie, but why was there a scene of Michael B. Jordan mowing down Nazis with a Tommy gun after the movie had already ended?
Right. Yeah. Well, it
just made no sense.
Remember, we have this first movie still going on.
But it had no tension, no stakes, no anything. It was just oh, here's a thing that we think looks cool. Here's an event, right? They wanted the image of it. They wanted the moment of it. And I get why historically and sort of the concept of revenge there. But it had nothing to do with the movie or the vampires or anything that had just transpired. And then it had another scene. It pulled a real Return of the King. It had like scene after scene after scene, and it just would not end. I was like laughing out loud at how the movie would not stop.
Yeah, I do think that the vampire bit and what they were trying to say with the vampire bit got a bit muddled.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was its strongest thing. And yeah, I liked the first movie that it was a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I still really enjoyed it, but I understand what you're getting at there, that I think that it's like people that saw From Dusk Till Dawn and then were like, I remember seeing it in the theater and there was this like old couple sitting in front of me that when the vampire stuff happened, they're like, what the hell? And then they left.
The action stuff is absolutely what took me out of it, because yeah, by the time I agree with both of you, like I loved everything up until the big house attack at the end.
I still liked the house attack. I just don't think it was as good as the first part.
Sure. And of course, like it's an interesting idea of the appropriation through vampirism is certainly a good idea to be explored. But then when it just sort of devolved into action, I was just less engaged with it. Love the big shot that they spent all the time on with all the different musicians throughout time. Like that was cool.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that is a big swing, and he pulled it off. So yeah,
I liked it, but there was part of it that was like, and the Chinese are here.
Yeah,
right. It was just like black culture, but hey, the Chinese people are here too. Okay. It made me think a little bit about Michael, your comment about Fargo season 2, where it's like a lot of big questions that are answered with guns. That it's that like you kind of brought up these big things, and then it's like, yeah, I don't know. Let's just have some action
really deep
scenes.
thoughts for you to think about. Now watch a bunch of people get shot.
Yeah, sure.
I hadn't actually thought of that connection, but I guess it is a little bit that way, but not as bad as Fargo season 2 was.
I mean, I watched a bunch of stuff and I'm like, well, this is probably going to be bad. And it was. Like I knew Hard Eyes wasn't going to be for me, and it absolutely wasn't. Mm-hmm. It was, hey, what if we played on the tropes of romantic comedy by just doing a romantic comedy, but then there's murders as well.
Yeah.
It's just one of those, I'm like, I don't think I'm the target audience for it. A big one though, for me, that was like, this has been on my watch list for a while. People have been talking about it, was May, which I think is from like 2001, 2002, which is very much a movie of that era. And I'm sure if I had seen it at that time, I'd be a lot more in love with it. But it is very not great. Mm-hmm. It's Lucky McKee, and it was an early movie of his, and it's about a weird girl that just can't make friends, and then weird stuff happens. It's not only does it feel like something I've seen a billion times, but it has this like attempted quirky thing that's just not working. I just wasn't buying any of it. Mm-hmm. And so when it gets to the final bit, I just didn't care. I think, the performances are solid. Anna Faris was in it, which I always like Anna Faris, although like, I think Anna Faris is a very, very funny actress, and she didn't get a chance to be very funny in this. They had her try to be like this sort of sex pot thing. It's like its premise got real annoying, and it had been done better by the time May was made. Mm-hmm. Like a weird loner that gets into death stuff. Yeah, that's Maniac. That's a whole bunch of other movies. Like it just, I don't know.
A socially awkward veterinary assistant with a lazy eye and obsession with perfection descends into depravity after developing a crush on a boy with perfect ... I don't. What was this perfect?
Hands.
All right.
It like I said. It also, I think some of it is because it feels so dated in how it's done. It feels dated in how it's done, not in a way that I can look back and be like, oh yeah, like you can watch really like the 90s have a bunch of independent movies that feel like plays or something like that. We're like, oh yeah, this kind of has this sort of 90s, this very typical of the era. And the style that typifies this, I just don't like. Mm-hmm. That's part of it as well.
We crossed it off the list.
Mm-hmm. But I'm done.
One that I was a little disappointed in was Ash by Flying Lotus. It was I
think everyone was disappointed in that one.
So I've said before, I'm a sucker for sci-fi horror. Like put some weird alien stuff in a horror context, and I will give it a shot. And often I will even say like, it wasn't so bad, but. Just structurally, this is a weird one because it was a case of our main character. It's just like, you figure out basically within the first 15 minutes or so, it's just like she's the one responsible for all the deaths that happen on the station. And then you have to just watch it kind of play out over and over. And yeah, I'm just like, I'm so bored by this. And there was a couple of like kind of fun sci-fi ideas and pretty good stuff for the budget, but overall I just got kind of bored about the repetitive nature of just watching something play out.
Do you think you figured something out that the filmmakers thought people wouldn't figure out, or do you think it was genuinely telegraphed like she's the killer?
I mean,
and
I would like to believe it's the latter because if not, like I'm not that clever. I mean, I can watch a movie.
It's hard to say because like I rewatched The Prestige recently, and that's actually kind of an October-y movie. And the thing that's always shocked me about that movie is that in one of the very, very early scenes, they literally perform a magic trick with a bird, and then a little kid says, "Where's his brother?" Mm-hmm. And the moment that happened in the theater, I was like, "Oh, Christian Bale's going to have a twin brother in this movie."
Yeah.
And so by the time 5 hours later, when that was revealed, and some people in the theater were like, "Oh,
yeah."
I was like, I don't, like, what? Really? Like, I was sitting there thinking everyone knew what I knew. So sometimes you just don't know.
I'm always angry if I figure out a movie. I never feel smart. I'm always like, no, you fucked up. If I can figure this out.
Right.
Because I always think about like when I was a kid, I saw Free Jack with my mom, the Emilio Estevez time travel movie. She fell asleep during it and then woke up and then was like, it's Anthony Hopkins is behind it. I was like, no way, he's a good guy. Oh my God, it's Anthony Hopkins. And so every time I'm like, no, it's the dumbest thing ever. And I'm just stupid for not getting it. But if I can get it, you've screwed up.
Right. That at least did make me go, well, I want to watch another space horror movie. And I watched Sunshine for the first time since the theater, and I remember being a little disappointed in Sunshine the first time I saw it because it has a pretty divisive third act. But knowing that third act this time, I thoroughly enjoyed myself watching Sunshine and being able to just kind of put that off to the side.
It's definitely got great atmosphere. And the atmosphere is everything.
The atmosphere, the just watching these people become completely obsessed with the sun. I thought it was a fun idea, like a cosmic horror weirdness idea. So Ash led me down the road to reappreciating or finding a new appreciation for Sunshine.
That's our second. Wait, is that Danny Boyle?
It is Danny Boyle.
Yeah, it is Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
And it was written by Garland, right?
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's not talk about
it. Right.
I still like Annihilation.
I almost rewatched that this
that one's still good.
Have you guys read the book?
I've not.
No.
Oh, well, that's why you like it.
Exactly. Well, yeah, because I mean, he even as the director went like, yeah, this is what I remember from the book.
Yeah.
I'm not Harvey's going too close to it.
It's a great book. Great book.
Another big bummer for me. And like, we were talking about this before we started recording about like movies you're like, oh, how come I've never heard of this? And then you watch, you're like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
The Awakening, which stars Charlton Heston and is basically the Omen, but instead of Satan, it was a mummy.
Oh,
and it's rough.
Okay. You know how Jim isn't into zombie movies and can't get excited about zombie movies? Well, I think we can all agree that mummy movies really are like the lowest shelf.
Like,
right?
I like The Mummy.
Yeah.
The Brendan Fraser. Like, that's not like,
I do too.
That's a high adventure. Yeah. That's fun. Mummies belong in high adventure, but I've never seen a spooky mummy movie.
Never seen a spooky mummy. Yeah.
It looked great, but terrible, just boring and just a Bad Omen ripoff.
Yeah, I didn't see you going down the path of it's a mummy instead of the Omen or instead of Satan. Like you could have thrown in anything there, but
no, because it's an Egyptian queen that ends up possibly possessing his daughter, who's more grown up than Damien. But it's so boring.
Rough. Yeah,
Charlton Heston has some great looks in there. Scarves tied around the neck and all that,
nice.
But no good. Yeah, I mean, I can't even there's not even but
sure.
It's just boring. If you've seen The Omen, just
rewatch The Omen.
Yeah.
By the way, you started with Hard Eyes Myers, and I watched that one as well. And it was very forgettable. Yeah. And I think that, it clearly wants to be a movie that's like, hey, it's a romantic comedy and a horror movie. And as a horror fan, I'm like, okay, I guess you got me because I'm watching it. And then I watched it. I'm like, yeah, this is exactly why I don't watch romantic comedies. Like, that's all it taught me was like, if I want to watch a horror movie, I'll watch a horror movie. I will not watch a romantic comedy.
You have a scene where characters are trying on fun different outfits and going like, boo, with ones they don't like and yay. And like, if you're doing that ironically, you're still doing it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not commenting
exactly.
on like, isn't this kind of ridiculous? No, you're just doing it, but going, it's useless.
You're saying that they're not subverting the...
No,
that's a thing these days, right? Is that people think if they make a modern movie that repeats a trope of the past, they can then say they're subverting that trope. When in fact, they're just doing it again. I think people need to look up the definition of subvert.
I just got done rewatching Cabin in the Woods for the other podcast for John Alex Hate Stuff. And yes, that is exactly that entire fucking movie. And I enjoyed it when it first came out, but now, no thank you. It's actually, having seen a bunch more horror movies, I'm like, no, fuck this thing.
I don't have strong opinions on it, but I did like it when it first came out, and I rewatched it like 10 years later, and I was like, I'm kind of bored.
Yeah. Because they're just being TV tropes.com the movie, which is tiresome.
Yeah.
I got 15 minutes into Hard Eyes, I think last year, and I just shut it off because it was one of those cases of I can't stand how everybody talks in this movie. And I know that is probably realistic these days, but I'm so infuriated by the way people talk in this that...
Well, I think it's a rom-com thing too. It's just everyone has to be clever 100% of the time. Everyone has to be cute 100% of the time. Everything is a quip. Everything is a memeable reference, right? Like,
and I mean, for me also, I just didn't like how slick everything looked. Everything like looks, and I understand like when you're doing a romantic comedy, it needs to look that way because that's how those things look. But just like when it just feels like a Hallmark movie, I'm not interested. No thanks. Did you have anything that was maybe not like oh my God, I love this, but was a surprise? Something you're like, that was better than I thought it was going to be, or just like, that was pretty great.
I finally watched The Heretic, and I really enjoyed where that movie went.
You're talking about Hugh Grant, Heretic,
from a couple of years ago or something. And as far as being surprised, I think it was just because I purposely never learned anything about the movie because I was like, I'll get around to watching that. I don't want to know anything about it. So I literally, for whatever reason, always thought that it was a chamber piece, and they never left like the main room. So I had no idea what was going on in the basement and the other basement and all that kind of stuff. And while I do agree that I think it bites off a little bit more than it can chew, I really enjoyed watching it. I like the premise behind it, and it really worked.
Yeah, I agree. And the performances are really good. I don't think it necessarily sticks the landing, but it's kind of a concept where how do you stick that landing in any scenario, right? You just kind of pick something and go, here's our ending, because what the fuck else could it be, right? This is a movie about everything, like all religions and all meaning. Yeah. So, but I thought that it's one of those movies where the setup is better than the payoff, but I knew it was going to be that way. Like, I didn't even know, I was kind of like you, I didn't really know what it was about. I knew it was going to have some religious themes just based on the, Mormons showing up or whatever they're supposed to be. And it's got the girl from Yellow Jackets, who's kind of was like everywhere for like a year ago, right?
I think.
And then everybody realized Yellow Jackets wasn't that good.
Yes,
and sort of.
Right. Oh God. Well, I think it was good, and then it got real bad in my opinion. But I watched the original Toxic Avenger from 1984, which I had never seen, and I watched in the theater the new Toxic Avenger with Peter Dinklage and Elijah Wood. And that was kind of an interesting experience because I saw the new one first and then watched the original later. And what I wasn't expecting there, as someone who just is not trauma literate, like I don't have some background of like understanding trauma and what's his name?
A degree at Kaufman U.
Yeah. It was interesting to me how different they are. Like, they're completely different movies. The new movie is not even trying to be the kind of movie that the original movie is trying to be. And in a way that surprised me because I know they had Lloyd Kaufman's like blessing on the new one. I think he was even involved to some degree, but the new movie is just very much a modern movie that wants to be a throwback to something classic and wants to kind of have it both ways of like, it's going to be fun and cool and modern, but it's also going to remind you of some of the things that you like from the past. And I think it did a reasonably good job of that. It's very much a down the middle 3-star kind of movie. It's not great, but it's not bad, which even that's kind of a miracle, right? Like Dinklage is fantastic, right? It's worth seeing just for him alone, honestly. Elijah Wood is good. I always like him though. He's good. Whenever he pops up in all these weird little horror things, because I know he's like, his studio is involved in distributing them or whatever, but like, it's always so nice when he shows up, It really just wants to be fun more than anything else. It just wants to be fun. And it's a little too glossy. it's a little too, it's the whole thing feels like it just has a big ribbon wrapped around it. And that's why I'm surprised that Lloyd Kaufman was involved at all, because that's not like the Troma spirit. Like he was, then you turn on the original Toxic Avenger and you're like, the first half hour of this movie is literally dedicated to some gym rats, male and female both, whose hobby is to murder children by running them over in the street. And you're like, wait a minute,
Hey,
what movie am I watching?
Where's
the? And it's so dedicated to it, and then you get it, but it clicks. You're like, oh, I get it. This is truly subversive 80s trash. That's exactly what it is. The Lloyd Kaufman understands that even before you get to the Toxic Avenger, you have to put like the worst people and the worst shit that no other filmmaker on the planet at that time or now is going to do, right? And that was, and I'm like, I respect it on that level. Like I totally get it. I'm like, he's truly being subversive in that sense. And then you get into the Toxic Avenger stuff and it all gets a bit silly. By the end of it, I just didn't care anymore about any of it. But
that's a Troma movie.
Yeah, there you go. But the remake has way more of a heart to it. And that's because of Peter Dinklage and Elijah Wood and just this sort of presence of people who you can just tell they are not as interested in being subversive as they are interested in being very entertaining.
I'll take that.
You know?
Yeah, especially these days, like modern movies trying so hard to be subversive, I just kind of get bored of.
There is nothing subversive about the new Toxic Avenger.
For me, I didn't necessarily, there wasn't necessarily one specifically, but I kind of started to fall in love with shot on VHS horror or shot on video horror. None of them are good. No. Let me back that up.
I mean, I think I've got a few of those that I made if you want me to mail them to you.
Well, that's the thing. There's a certain amount of this, like particularly with some newer ones. Like there's a guy, Joe Meredith, who makes a lot of his stuff is free on YouTube, who makes these short films that are shot on VHS or digital or whatever, but have this sort of found footage quality to them. And the first one I watched, Ataraxia, feels like it's just a compendium of like video diaries that you've picked up in a survival horror game. Like they never make any sense on their own, but they just kind of have this feel and vibe to them. And that's more of his thing. And I watched this like longer one he put together called Harvest Brood, which he just released this year. First of all, it's a movie whose male cast is entirely made up of dungeon masters.
Ooh, yeah.
He does this like very kind of vibey thing, but there's a certain amount of that I just can't get on board with because to me, I can't see the inherent creepiness of VHS. So much that sometimes just looks like a backyard homemade movie to me. So it loses some of that element, but I still really enjoyed that. So that one I really like, just kind of as like a throw on and kind of vibe out thing, even though the acting in it, like I said, was not that great. And then I watched one called Boarding House. It's directed and starring this guy named John Wintergate. Opens a boarding house for hot chicks. Because some people, when they want to make a movie, they want to explore something, maybe have an idea. It's like, no, this guy just wants to have hot ladies hanging around him. It has this huge feel of just, okay, go. Of people just like ad-libbing dialogue. And
how many low budget movies are guys who are just very into babes and are like, I need an excuse to have babes around.
Well, we already talked about Troma. But, that was, or there's one, Shower of Screams, which is made by this guy, Tom Takar, who made this movie for his science class to talk about the dangers of acid rain. And there's just something about that homemadeness of it. Like it's bodies covered in lunch meat to make it look like.
I think you bring up an interesting point about like, is VHS scary? And if it is, why would it be? And what is it about tape artifacts that may or may not create a certain vibe? And I think about this stuff all the time, but in the context of audio, not so much video, right? And in the musical realm, like there's been a huge fad or, for the last, it's quite a while now, but solid last 10 years or more of deliberate degradation of audio quality to try to capture certain vibes. And like, because I think Boards of Canada kind of did the best job of it that at a time when no one had even thought about doing that. And they did such a good job of it that like, honestly, no one needed to ever do it again after that. But that's not going to stop anybody, right? So, and it makes me think of how I'm sure it's exactly the same for movies. it's one of those things about the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law, right? Which I know is more of like a religious sort of term, but people think that if you just like do the effect right, then you're going to capture that essence. When like, that's actually not true. Like you can put scan lines in your shitty movie. It's not going to make people suddenly nostalgic because you put scan lines on the screen, right? Like, and similarly, there's the audio equivalent is called wow and flutter, right? And it's like the effect of old tape as tape degrades.
Yeah.
And the pitch starts warping, but in like multiple dimensions, it starts warping essentially. And one's the wow and one's the flutter. It's like two different rates in which simultaneously modulating the pitch. And there's just so many artists, essentially post Boards of Canada, who will do this effect on their like, you know, synth lines or on their, you'll hear it on everything. And they think just because you do it, like that's going to make that effect work. And people go, oh, it sounds nostalgic. But like, no, you have to understand it's actually has to be a part of like the entire song, not just some effect that you're layering onto it, right? Like you have to figure out what kind of movie would actually be scary to be shot on a VHS camcorder, right? And make that movie, because it's not just that it looks like a VHS camera. It has to like be the spirit of what you would capture with that medium that would actually be scary. Right.
Well, and I think that's part of the thing that I liked about Harvest Brood. It feels like he's actually using the technology. So it's like it plays up to the strengths of that degraded quality, but it's also clearly not a love letter, but it fits in the genre of shot on video horror. There's a part where there's a murder and it is like the cheapest, crappiest thing you've ever seen. But it rules because absolutely that's the way it should look if you're doing a shot on video horror.
Yeah.
And so I love that they just leaned into that they weren't like you see the bad dummy or whatever. I don't want to make it sound like they didn't try, but it was clearly aesthetically done to match this kind of feel. And I like that they did that. Understanding what makes it scary and or interesting. It's like when we were doing a sleepaway camp, I want to say it was like 2, where there's like, oh yeah, because it's with the Tip Patrol, because they're taking Polaroid pictures. And when you see the roll of Polaroid pictures, it looks like someone's last known photo.
Right, yeah.
Because now it feels all creepy and dead and strange in that way. But I just can't get there with VHS in that same way. Because to me, it is just like, no, this is a movie I made in the backyard with my friends.
How about a few just sort of, I don't know, not quite lightning round yet or anything, but like I watched a couple of perfectly serviceable, like not great, not horrible type of things. Like, I watched, and I think both of you did too, Dangerous Animals, I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
Myers is the disliker of the three of us. I mean, I didn't love it.
I went, like everyone else, I went to go see that based on my deep love for Captain Boomerang in Suicide Squad.
Oh, yes, I can see.
Jai Courtney is actually really good at it.
He throws a shark and it comes back to him.
Yeah. No, he's the only other thing I know him from.
Oh, I thought you said you watched it because you always wanted to see a horror movie version of Captain Ron.
Well, I've seen Captain Ron. I don't need to see a horror movie version of Captain Ron. But it's an interesting idea, but it just is kind of like, I think one of you said, like, writes itself into a corner. It's just
it writes itself into a corner 3 times in a row, and every time its way to back out of it is increasingly disappointing. And so by the end of it, they're literally just giving the means of escape to the protagonist in front of your very eyes. Just the villain is just handing it over. And I was like, this is what happens when you write yourself into a corner, is you think your concept is really cool. You're like, oh, this guy hangs women over sharks in the water and they're trapped and then the sharks eat them. And he's like, what a simple but awful and brutal concept for a truly misogynistic horror movie.
right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, deliberately so in this regard, right? Like it has a final girl type character that it is maybe a little too in love with. But I think that it just, how many scenes can you watch of attempted escape, thwarted again, attempted escape, thwarted again, attempted escape, until inevitably you have to hit an attempted escape that on some level succeeds. And it was not convincing why it succeeded. That's what I'll say.
Right. And I think you kind of mentioned with the lead final girl, whatever, the girl he captures at the beginning was so much more fascinating and interesting of a character than she was.
Well, more real.
Yeah.
More real.
Absolutely.
She seemed like someone, a tourist who, and I liked the setup there too, where it's like these two, it's a boy and girl, or man and woman, I should say, that the villain assumes they're a couple, and they're like, no, we basically just hooked up last night, and like now we're just trying to like have the awkward hangout post hookup, like we met at a party kind of thing. That was an interesting little twist, right? The movie could have just started with a couple wants to go on a tour boat and see sharks. And instead it had that little angle to it, which immediately kind of humanized those characters. It's like, oh, they're already in a kind of awkward situation. They hooked up, but they don't know each other. And now they're going to like do a thing today because they don't have anything better to do. And they were already with each other. So yeah, she felt really real and really human. And then when it cuts away from her to go to the protagonist of the movie, it's just a movie girl.
It was very not interesting at a certain point. It was just kind of killing time. But I did like Jai Courtney. I'll say that. I like Jai Courtney. It wasn't
bad though. It wasn't bad.
That was about it.
Yeah, I like Jai Courtney too. It needed to have a higher level of cleverness going on in the third act that it just couldn't maintain. It couldn't figure out what it needed to do.
Yeah, and I feel like it just gets an extra star in my book just because it does have that dumb premise. I mean, just like that's original, like it's goofy and made me laugh when I realized that that's what it was about. But I do agree with you. Like, I feel like they may have been coasting on that too long to make something great, you know.
Horror movies struggle with this a lot, I think, and understandably, but like, how do you present that your villain is this all-powerful bad that we need to fear? We need to feel like there's no escape from this, right? That has to be the feeling the first half, maybe the first 2/3, that there's this sense of like, this thing is terrifying. This person is terrifying. But by the end of the movie, how do you maintain that, but also have some way where if you don't want just a totally cynical, sadistic ending, then you have to turn the table somehow, you know? And by the end of this movie, Jai Courtney just seemed like a buffoon, right? And you're like, you've just, the way that you ended your movie was just sucking all of the goo out of Bane, right? Like deflating Bane into the skinny guy, essentially. He was impossibly strong until he needed to not be that anymore. And then he makes really stupid decisions for no reason. And, you know, the movie ends. So if we're doing a kind of sort of lightning round, what do I got? I've got, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. That's the Shirley Jackson adaptation from a handful of years ago. That's on Shudder, which makes it very accessible and easy to throw on. It's not going to be for everybody. It's a slow burn, not even a horror movie, but Shirley Jackson.
Is that the one with Alexandra Daddario from Texas Chainsaw 3D, among other things?
Yes. She's the older sister, which is a pretty important role. She nails it, actually, because she has that weird, like disaffected, yet believable quality to her throughout the whole thing, where she's like checked out of all events on purpose. And you're like, oh, this is a person who has chosen to check out. Right. Their role will be, I'm checked out. I'm going to like go through the motions and do things. It's also got Crispin Glover, and I would recommend watching the movie just for him because he's fantastic. It's a great role for him.
So as it's a family thing and it's got Alexandra Daddario, does she ever say, do your thing, cuz?
I was just going to ask that. Yeah. I don't know if Michael's seen that one.
No, probably not. That's at the end of Texas Chainsaw 3D. She throws Leatherface the chainsaw and says, do your thing, cuz, in this way that's like, they've kind of allied,
like allies, and it's like, bonded by the.
It is Gal Gadot level line reading. It is it's not great.
So on a positive note, I will say that I recently listened to, because I do sometimes listen to your podcast. Although I'm trying to keep the numbers up so that I've always guested more than I've listened to it. Right. That's the challenge, right? Make
so
sure that I don't exceed.
You listened to 3 whole episodes.
Well, I've guested like, this is probably 7 or 8 or something. I don't know.
No, it's a few. Yeah.
But you had Steve Kostanski. Is that, am I saying that right? Yeah. Canadian, right? I'm not sure what part of Canada he's from. You had him on the show, checked it out. That was great. And, you know, he was a awesome Uber nerd, exactly as I wanted him to be. And that was wonderful. And so part of my October was I rewatched The Void. I'd seen it before and I liked it even more this time. That was good news. It has a little bit of like, it's funny, The Void, I'm curious what you guys think, where it sort of simultaneously has a surprisingly impressive budget and visuals to it. Like some of it, you'd be like, wow, that's a really impressive visual, especially like towards the end. But then other parts of it seem incredibly B-movie. Like some of the acting and some of the line delivery are just like, okay, this, you know, is more sort of a different level of camp going on. And I'm cool with that because I watch a fuck ton of horror movies. And I think for me, it just rolls by very naturally. But that movie's such an interesting mishmash of like surprisingly high production values that kick in when you don't expect them to. And they're awesome. And then sometimes being like kind of a down the middle kind of classic 80s cheesy but fun horror movie, but particularly with sort of the dynamic, people yelling at each other in a hospital all the time. That
it has been too long since I've watched it, but that was basically my recollection of it, was that watching it being like, holy crap, these effects are really cool. And like really liking the monster, but then not really remembering much else from it.
It's got Wyndham Earle from Twin Peaks. I'm sorry that I don't know the actor's name, but everyone you're going to see him and go, oh, it's Wyndham Earle from Twin Peaks.
On the subject of Canadian excellence, this was the one that this movie I had talked about. Like I almost submitted this to Bad Movie Group night, but it was too bad. It's very special. It is a one of a kind movie. You will not see anything like it, even though I'm going to compare it to several other movies. Beyond the Seventh Door. It is a movie. You'd think it's a vanity movie, but it's not. It's written, directed by a guy, but starring a different guy. And this guy, Lazar Rockwood, is proto Tommy Wiseau. He's got insane cheekbones. He's from someplace.
Looking at a picture of him right now, and he truly is the first draft of Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah. The movie is that he is a thief. He's just getting out of jail and he's trying to like meet with his girlfriend again. And he ends up going on like one last job and bringing her along. She's actually working at the place he's going to steal from. And they get trapped, this like millionaire's mansion, and they get trapped in the basement. And there's a series of puzzles they have to go through. So it's like Saw, but this predates Saw.
So it's truly visionary is what you're saying.
If you don't have the time to watch the movie, you could drink a bunch of NyQuil and spin around a bunch. And it'd be somewhat similar.
I would like to watch this movie.
I was watching this, and my partner Hazel was in the room, was like, "This is what you watch." This is like, just couldn't understand what I was thinking. But I was having a great time, and it is. It's something else. It's like watch it with a friend. Why don't watch it alone?
Don't watch it alone or a confused partner. Yeah.
Definitely want to now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have any other like that was kind of good. Clown in a Cornfield was okay. No, I didn't love it.
Here's a question I have because I haven't seen it yet. Now I know the masks people are wearing are scary.
Yeah,
is the clown itself look like that? The clown that's supposed to be the spokesperson for this corn syrup company or whatever? Because I read the book. And it was driving me nuts when I saw the movie, and it was like, the clown's not supposed to be evil looking. At least that's the way I took it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't even know. Like I'd have to look at the visual on like the side of the barn or whatever it was that shows the clown.
It's like, why would you have an evil clown be your spokesperson? The idea is that it's supposed to be scary because it looks like a clown, but then you're doing evil fit. It's like Tim Curry in It versus the stupid new Pennywise.
Exactly. And for me, I'm so tired of overblown like scary clown stuff too that I barely
unless they're from outer space
and they're killers. But
right, obviously.
Yeah, I watched this kind of arbitrarily. I was like, well, I'll give this a shot. And it was fine. But yeah, if you like clown stuff,
I thought it was so right down the middle that it just didn't even need to exist. It was so clean. It was so glossy. It was so just every little contrived line. I liked the protagonist a lot. I thought she was really cool. And I wanted to see her in a better movie, because even the trope of like, it's just the Hot Fuzz kind of storyline of like, you show up in this place and it turns out that like half the town is just behind being evil. And sorry for the spoilers, but like it's, you know that even from the beginning, right? And also because there's this gag where it's like the movie's called Clown in a Cornfield, but then right out of the gate, there's like 20 clowns.
Yeah. That did kind of make me laugh. Like I did kind of like that.
I've read online comments. I shouldn't even mention them here, but like of people receiving the movie really positively. And I want to try to understand that, but I'm like, it just feels like a delivery system, of like, here's the things that people will like. And I guess if that works, then great. But it for me, it lacked any sort of identity or atmosphere or character that made it seem like a unique entity among horror movies. It was just so bland.
I think that's kind of your answer. I think you get people that aren't sicko weirdos that have watched a billion horror movies that are just like, oh, this is my first foray into this kind of thing. This is amazing. Because it's written. I mean, it's a young adult novel, kind of horror thing. So it is sort of that entry into it. And so I can see people like picking up on that and being like, this is finally a horror movie for my generation.
From what I could tell too, the author has a lot of goodwill. Just being like, I think he self-published and he's been kind of like just working this grind for a long time, and he finally got to make the movie based on his book, or he was somewhat involved or something like that, if I remember right. Gosh, what else, guys? Any last ones to throw at the good folks?
I really liked A Different Man. I know that's kind of a last year movie. And not really a horror movie, but it kind of gets lumped in there a little bit. But that one, I would say Different Man and Red Rooms were my favorites that were kind of not traditional horror movies in the conventional sense, but were like still had horror elements and just made you think about them a lot. Those were the two for me that I thought about the most after seeing them, right? Like where you just kind of the next day, the day after, you're still processing some of what the movie put in front of you. And it had really interesting, because the central characters are these, disfigured faces, right? But it had an interesting way of like, if you're going to have disfigured faces, one fake, a literal mask, and then one real, the other guy, there, you have like, how do you put anyone around them? Is kind of the interesting challenge of that movie, right? Because it's just, they're going to draw the eye so immediately and potentially like disgust people, or the movie knows that, and it has some interesting ways of riffing on that idea of like, you might not want to like look at this person, and they expect that, and we know that, and we're going to like very deliberately turn the like very ugly person into a very attractive Sebastian Stan person, and that is not an accident, right? Like it knows exactly what it's doing every step of the way. But what I loved about it was how all of the characters surrounding them are just as interesting as the people at the center of it, which for a movie with this concept, you would not expect, right? You would expect the supporting players to truly be supporting players. But instead, even tertiary characters show up in the movie and have really weirdly memorable scenes where they interact with the primary characters, and like almost a like Robert Altman level of just realism to their delivery, and just weird gonzo New York people without ever feeling like the movie's trying to be weird. And that's probably why it stuck with me so much. Cause I'm like, these aren't people who the director's like, oh, look how weird I could be. Like, no, these are just genuinely weird people. These could be people showing up as extras on Tim and Eric, and they're just allowed their moment to like have a scene of dialogue. And you're like, people don't talk like that, but I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah. I like that one a lot too. That was a good, I mean, they got nominated for an Oscar and I think best makeup or something like that, obviously. But
and he won like a different Golden Globe for being Trump, but not the one for being the
right.
Like, well, go with the ugliest role.
For me, the other one that stuck with me probably the longest was William Friedkin's Bug. I did not see. I didn't care about when it came out, but I think works really well now as everyone is slowly giving themselves schizophrenia online. I think it's very prescient that way. And Michael Shannon and Ashley Judd are so good in it.
You had me at Michael Shannon.
Yeah, it really shook me. I've been thinking about it a lot afterwards or since then. But afterwards, I watched like earlier in the day. So I'm like, okay, I need to come down. So I watched Boxer's Omen. Because sometimes when, you're just shook, you got to watch a monk fight a wizard by shining a light at him through a mirror. And then that wizard turns into an older wizard. And then a very cute bat emerges from his mouth and flies out. And the monk catches it and then does a ceremony where he waves some flowers over it and then nails it to a book, awakening the second wizard that's pissed off as his effigy to that bat starts to crumble. And so he has to go get chicken blood to spray on stuff to try to get the bat bones to come alive and leave. Sometimes you just need that.
That's what sounds like a D&D.
Yeah. Are you sure you weren't just describing our D&D campaign right there?
That might have just been that. I got kind of into a fugue state for the last part of October. But it is very gross. It is a very gross movie. But it is bonkers, and it just doesn't stop. Like what I just described is in like the first 20 minutes.
I'm curious about
and
that.
That was like the inciting incident for all this other stuff. It's one of those, again, that like you kind of just have to experience because it just doesn't know when to end, and it just keeps going and just keeps getting goofy, and I love it.
Let's talk about gross for a second, because I'm pretty familiar with your taste and stuff, pretty familiar with your reaction to things as we watch a lot of bad movies together. But when you say it's gross, what are you telling us?
There's stuff specifically designed to gross you out. Like eventually that second bad wizard gets destroyed, and his minions then seek vengeance. And they seek vengeance by digging up a body that they've buried, and it's like covered in maggots. They hide it inside of a alligator that they've killed and hollowed out. But then they do this thing like where they eat, and it's like one shot of some guy like eating some disgusting looking food or entrails or something, spitting it back out, then another guy eating it.
That's gross.
So it's that kind of gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like there's a lot of like entrails and that kind of stuff. It's goopy.
Like Fulci style?
Kind of, but not less fantastical, which sounds weird from what I'm describing, but like a lot of the gore stuff.
Is there anything fantastical about blowing maggots on people? Like,
yeah. I mean, like, but some of it's ridiculous. Like at one point there's a head that separates from a body and it's got a bunch of like, I don't even know what hanging from it that like chokes other people. But it's like, it's very gory and visceral in places. You know, one thing, because you bring up Fulci, one thing that surprises me every time I watch City of the Living Dead, which I do nearly every Halloween, is the repeated move.
And that is the Mega Blower.
That's the Mega Blower
movie.
Is the repeated move of crushing the skull from the back. Like the zombies, like it's like the top of your head, the back top of your head, the weirdest place to grab a hold and crush. He does that so many times.
What I love is that every year you talk about City of the Living Dead again, and I understand why, but like every time there's a different thing that you're fixated on about it, right? So like this time it's like grabbing someone and crushing them from the back of the head. And, you know, obviously there's a Mega Blower, but for years, Myers was fixated on, this is a movie where a guy kills a woman just by looking at her.
Yeah. He just looks at her until she throws up her organs. That is the coolest thing. That is the most power a person could have. Yeah. It's wild. And I love movies. Yeah. I love movies like that where it's, you look at something so hard it blows up, or you've got someone to just vomit up their organs.
So basically,
love it.
That movie rewards multiple viewings, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. Particularly if you're me, it's great. And you again enter a fugue state, and then you wake up and go, "Oh, I should probably watch City of the Living Dead again
to bring me back down."
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I can kick it out with one last kind of horror adjacent one, which would be speaking of Kostansky, I did get to see Deathstalker at the one theater here in Portland. It was playing, but
nice.
Yeah,
the absolute wrong theater.
Wrong theater.
I don't know why. I mean, there was not enough people in the theater to be watching that movie at that time. There should have been.
Well, who goes to the Fox Tower to watch Deathstalker?
Yeah, I haven't been to the Fox Tower in 15 years, I don't think. But I made the trip for Deathstalker, and goodness, I'm excited for the Hollywood to play it in 5 years or something. But Sword and Sandal movie, as we briefly talked about on the Warlock 2 episode. But I was so happy to see it, and boy, howdy, if you want creatures and monsters, there's monsters in every other scene. You know, there's goofy fantasy shit just like every 5 minutes, and it just makes me smile.
I can't wait to see it. Like I can't wait.
I look forward to it. And I also like that. I guess you listen to so many like movie podcasts or hear people talk about movies online. They're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. The ArcLight, all these other theaters in LA. I'm like, I have no idea what this is. Yeah. So it's nice that we get to do our version of that.
For sure. We do have a couple of local listeners. I'm positive. Hi, Rudy. Or Rudy.
What's up, Rudy?
A Deathstalker. I mean, that movie should have been at the Clinton Street Theater or the Hollywood Theater or both, right? And end of story. Like playing at the Fox Theaters in downtown Portland in a high rise. That it's you go there to see like a George Clooney movie, like Up in the Air or something, that when you'll be sitting next to like 50 somethings who go, I
mean, I was doing that at every decapitation, but yes. He went from left to right this time.
How Jejun.
But yeah, see Deathstalker, man, it's so much fun. I can't wait to watch that again. Get some people together if you can too. So
shout out to Frankie Frico, which was one of my October movies, and I loved it.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Actually, I was, believe it or not, I started feeling like there's a couple of non-horror things that I would like to get to.
What?
So yeah, can you believe it? In with the duties of this show, and then also the duties of Fright Boys, is there anything on your radar that you kind of wanting to get into that's not horror as we close the crypt on October? For me personally, it was I watched the first couple of episodes of The Chair Company, and I really liked that so far.
Yep, that's great.
I'm going to keep on with that.
I've been doing Blast from the Past HBO, watching Carnival. So, and what I realized is that I'd only seen the first season. I'd never actually seen the second season. And I was like just firing up the second season in the end of September. And then we started this whole October marathon. So that's what I'll be getting back to, is finishing off Carnival, which is, it's funny how forgotten things become, right? Like early 2000s things, there's so much content that was around then that just lost it to the, but I guess that's why you pay now $18.49 to HBO Max to watch these things. But yeah, I'm really enjoying Carnival, and that's what I will return to.
I have been asked to watch the Netflix series Monster, the Ed Gein thing.
Oh God, why?
Because my sister is mad and wants someone to yell at about it with. So I watched the first episode and it's dog shit, and so I don't think I'm going to continue. And then I still need to watch Aliens, the Alien series, which is I like.
It's also dog shit.
But that's the thing, is that like the two options I have right now are of people telling me, watch this, I need to yell at it to somebody.
This is what I love about the whole Alien thing, is that, the first two movies are like two of the greatest movies ever made. And then, as you mentioned earlier, it is just nothing but disappointment after disappointment after disappointment from that point on. And I know there's apologists for this thing or that thing, and I don't care. They all suck after the first two. And then, but every time something comes out and gets hyped up, like, oh no, but really, this is the one. This time. And this fucking Noah Hawley shit comes out on Hulu, and it's the exact same game all over again. No, this is the one. This time it's good. I think it's dog shit. I think it's absolute dog shit. And I don't know why anyone's buying into that crap, because it's just, that's just me, but.
No, but that's exactly how it was told to me. It's like, I'm angry about this and I want to talk to someone about it. So I'm not really rushing to get into anything else right now. It's basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I love the second one with all my heart, and I have that weird, well, I don't know if you know this, like I have a completionism streak, like I have to keep up and see it all. But no, I watched all 8 of that Hulu show, and goodness, like there were a couple of moments that I liked, and I just thought, like, I think you two are better about this kind of thing than I am, but I think I don't need to get sucked into the next big prestige thing that tells me, no, this time it's good. I'm looking at you, Derry. I am growing by not watching Welcome to Derry. Whereas I used to just be like, screw it. There's probably a couple of good scares in it. No, not doing it this time.
See, that's the thing. I've heard some critics I actually like are like, you know what, actually this thing's pretty good. But like the thing that I was reading before, I can't. I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it. I can't get on board with that.
Yeah.
Well, we're all growing. Some of us, myself, slower than others, but we're all
on our own journey
for sure. But yeah, I am looking at the dates at the bottom of this spreadsheet. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our 5th year of doing the Fright Boys spreadsheet. So, and I think 3rd year doing it as a show, maybe 4th year. I can't remember, but,
well, one of the most entertaining parts about this sheet we keep referencing is that Myers, as everyone has already learned through the course of the show, but he watches all kinds of just crap. And it's just amazing some of the stuff that he digs up. No. I mean, like, I'm looking at this. What, Myers, do you want to tell us is the YouTube sourced movie Shower of Screams?
Shower of Screams was the one I mentioned, the guy that made it for his science class.
Oh, you Tokar. Did. You did. Okay.
I'm happy to talk about Ghost Shark, though. That was fun. That was a Sci-Fi Channel movie that you'd think would be more like Sharknado, but it does play it straight. It's a giant shark that gets killed, destroys a boat in the process, but then the corpse floats away to a cave where there's some runes that brings it back to life as a ghost. So anytime there's water, it shows up and it just keeps killing people. It was floating around the internet for a long time, like, because it has a bunch of gifable moments. A kid's on a slip and slide, and then the shark comes the other way on the slip and slide and just eats the kid. It was dumb fun. Nice. Richard Mall is in it. I had a blast with it. It wasn't anything more than it needed to be.
I would hope so.
It reminds me, I need to get more runes.
Yeah, that's true of everybody.
Place them around the house. But yeah, this is the fifth year we've done this, and I don't see any point in stopping. So we'll be firing this up next year, I'm sure. So thanks, Michael, for joining us as always. And where can people find you online if you want to be found?
Just the music. Look up Michael Arthur Holloway on bandcamp.com if you're into like noir, jazz, or Dead When I Found Her for old school industrial. Haunted Hospital for horror movie music, horror funk.
Good stuff.
Fulci funk. Yeah, it's just called Fulci funk. Why not?
All right, everyone. Well, we'll be back at you here soon with, Fright Night Part 2 or Fright Night Remake, depending on when this comes out. But we're right in the thick of all the Fright Nights right now. So good times. Excellent. Good times over there. And
I can't wait to not listen to it.
Yeah, and speaking of not listening, if you want to check out our Patreon and join the party over there, this month we tackled Ghost Watch and WNUF Halloween as a couple of haunted broadcasts for Halloween night. So check that out if you're interested. And until then, we will see you here next week for more Fright Nights. So good night.
Good night.
This has been a Caretaker Press production. It was produced by James Strayer and edited by John C. Myers. Logo by Ethan Kimberling and music by Michael Arthur Holloway, who you can find on Bandcamp. Follow us on Instagram at thismayhurtabitpod and email us at thismayhurtabitpod@gmail.com. Give us a 5-star review over on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next time.